Hi everyone, so Danielle Stadick here, Grand Oaks High School College and Career Counselor and Advisor, and I'm so happy to be joined today by Mrs. Laura Willard, the Conroe ISD specialist when it comes to college and career readiness. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ms. Willard.
Oh, Danielle, I'm so happy to be here, and it is always a pleasure to serve our Grizzlies. So let's get started. Let's talk about the college application process, particularly what it looks like in August. So right now is the time that you should be preparing your college list. And for those of you that saw our town hall meeting that we did back in May, we talked exactly about this. So right now is the time that you and your family should be having those conversations about where I'd like to apply. Not where do I want to go to college, but where do I want to apply? You may be looking at places you're familiar. You may be looking at in-state. You may be looking at out-of-state, maybe a public university or a private. If you're not quite sure and you're still searching for those perfect places to apply, I highly recommend using Navient Student. Navient Student has Supermatch feature, and colleges that look for students like me, that's College Match, there are a lot of tools in Navient Student to help you narrow that list. What does a typical college or high school seniors college application list look like? Typically, the average is 5 universities or less. 3 to 5 is the average for applications, and it's usually broken down like this. 2 colleges will be what they call the reach schools. They will be very difficult for the student to get into. Now, a reach school for me may be a school because my class rank may not be in the top 10%. Or a reach school from a Stadick may be a school that has very few seats because it's a very small school. A reach school for you may be something that requires a higher GPA. Every student has a different set of criteria for reach, but those are schools that you'd love to get into, but you know you're just right outside their admissions requirements. 2 to 3 schools should be your super match. And what we mean by a super match, it means it has your major, your GPA, your class rank, if you have test scores, and affordability, all are within range. You know you have what it takes to be accepted and to attend that university. So, if you're looking, I always say 2 to 3 schools in that super match. And then I always recommend 1 or 2 safety schools. Now, a safety school is a school that you have higher GPA and test scores and class rank requirements that are necessary. But here's the deal with a safe school. A safe school is still a school that you would be happy attending. So if you're putting down a university that makes you unhappy, that you feel like you wouldn't want to be a member or a college student on their campus, then it's not a safe school.
Yeah, don't have that kind of school on your list. Absolutely not.
Right. So don't apply to a school because you feel like you have to. A safe school should still be a great option for you that will make you happy and proud to wear their t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, be looking at those. Let's find out what type of application they use, what their deadlines are, particularly what their scholarship deadlines are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ms. Stadick. Now, let's talk about email. I know you do the Snap, you do the Insta, you do the TikTok, you don't read email. Unfortunately, colleges use email. They're professional organizations, and they're going to give you information through your email. Also, Ms. Stadick has to have your personal email for Navient. So if you've not updated your Navients, you're going to need to do that and give her the email that you actually goes to your phone and you check. I've worked over 30 years with students. And so when I email them, I need to see you today, it's not because I'm bored or I'm lonely. I really do need to see you about some business about your college applications. The colleges will also email you if you're missing items, if you have an opportunity that they'd like to offer you, but you must respond by a deadline. You've got to get into that habit of checking your email. And mom and dad, we know you want to help, but the email must be the student's. And the student is the correspondent to the college, not the parent. So you can sit beside your son and daughter and read that email along with them, but you have got to allow the student to respond to those universities. Remember, this process is going to take a while. And I told Ms. Stadick, we talked about it last week, and I said, you know what? We are not, the college application process is not an Instapot. We don't throw it all together and get it done quickly. It really is a crock pot. We have to take our time, go through the steps, keep track of items and documents that need to be sent, and then we wait until the final product is just right. So what goes into our crock pot? The most important thing, and the thing that must be finished first before anything else is done, is the student application. All pieces stop until that application has been submitted. The application should be thoughtfully prepared. I know that Common App opened on August 1st, and Apply Texas opened this summer. Students are not admitted to universities by post date. It just doesn't happen. They're not interested in the speed in which you submit. I understand that some colleges will give you information like, well, housing is going to go fast. You better apply early. But here's the reality. Housing does go quickly, but their idea of quickly is after Thanksgiving. Everything is still wide open in August, September, and October. So we want to make sure that you have your applications done first. What's involved in an application? Usually it is the demographics. Who are you? Where do you live? Where do you attend school? Information about your classes, what major you want, those type of general questions. And then there will also be student short answers or an essay or both. Ms. Stadick's going to share with you an informational tutorial that I did on essay writing. I cannot stress to you enough, the college essay is the most important piece of your application. After you finish the student application, make sure someone checks your application before you hit send. If you make a mistake, if you delete or give wrong information, the college will not allow you to resubmit. You've got one opportunity to do it, and we want to make sure it's correct. So always have someone double check the pieces of your student application. Next is test scores. Now, test scores are optional for most universities for admissions. What that means is a student can apply and have a completed application on file without an SAT or ACT. I do caution students in this new world we're living in that test optional is wonderful, but please ask questions of those universities. Are they going to use test scores to determine majors? Are they going to use test scores for scholarship money? Do I have to provide a test score before I go to my first college orientation, in order to place into math and English in the freshman level? So we're not quite sure all those answers yet, and that's why Ms. Stadick's going to be your best resource, because information's changing all the time. Okay. After you do the student application, you've submitted a beautiful essay, then you order the transcript. Official transcripts cannot be touched by a parent or a student. It must go directly from Grand Oaks High School directly to the college or university. It is official, and that is something we will send electronically. We still, on a rare occasion, will have to U.S. mail, but most things now go from institution, the high school, to institution, the college, electronically. And we have timestamps and dates where we can see when that was sent and picked up. Finally, some colleges, not all, some will ask for a letter of recommendation. This is the final step in the process. This is one of the last pieces that we'll be putting in place probably mid to late September and October for students. Before you ever ask for a letter of recommendation, everything else should be taken care of first. And then you have to look at the university. Do they accept letters of recommendation? If so, how many letters, and by whom should the letter be written? Most Texas public universities do not want nor require a rec letter. All of these pieces do not go in one package. So a student application will come from their email. The high school, as I've said, will send a transcript. Test scores, if you send them to these schools, will come from ACT or SAT directly to the college. And then the letters of recommendation will come from the writer directly to the college, not through the student's hands. So all of these pieces fly in from various locations to form one complete application. Again, this is a slow process, and we anticipate it takes 2 or 3 months before we get to that complete file. Ms. Stadick? So where do you find these pieces? Well, let's talk about the most common applications. Apply Texas, which is the universal application for all Texas public universities, including UT Austin and Texas A&M. There are some private schools such as Texas Christian University, Southern Methodist University, TCU, SMU, that will also accept Apply Texas within the state. All of those are going to be found on Apply Texas. You fill out the application one time, and then you send it to a variety of schools. The common application is accepted by over 600 universities across the United States and internationally. It is the one-stop application for a large number of schools. There are a couple of Texas schools that accept Common App as well. So you may want to look at your entire list of schools in which you're going to apply and see, can I get all of my colleges done on one application? Instead of filling out a new application for every type of school, let's see if we can find the one common application, whether it's Apply Texas, Common App, or Coalition. Coalition is rather new on the scene. It was developed, I believe, in 2014 or 15. I remember I was part of a study on the Coalition app when it came out. And it was an alternative to the Common App that was started by the University of Chicago. We use it often for schools that are out of state. There are a couple schools that are picking up Coalition app. Trinity University comes to mind in San Antonio, but your two most frequent apps are Apply Texas and Common App. Test scores, again, when you do test, if you choose to test, you will code your test scores and send them directly to the university. Expect a 4 to 6 week after the test date for that to be delivered to that college. And then finally, transcript requests, letters of recommendation, all go through Mrs. Stadick, and they all go through Naviance. And she's going to explain more about that in a few moments.
I am.
A resume. Again, as I've told you, I've done this a really long time. And a really long time ago, I would bring students into my office, and we would sit down and do it on an old-fashioned typewriter. And they would type out all their personal information in resume form. Do you send a resume these days? Well, here are the questions I always ask students. If you have so many activities, so many awards, so many huge achievements, that there was not room on the application to list all these for grades 9 through 11, then I would suggest a resume. Remember, colleges are not interested in anything that happens prior to high school. So we don't put information in about K through 8. But if you have a very dense high school achievements, have lots to say about yourself, we may want to send a resume. The depth, again, if you are a nationally ranked fencer, if you are known in the world for your artwork or your TED Talk, that's something, yes, we would probably send in a resume because it gives us more room to explain. Also, if you put it on your college application, you don't send it again. So it has to be new information if we're going to send a resume. Resumes, though, I definitely don't want you to forget about these. You and I and Ms. Stadick will talk again in the spring about local scholarships. And when it comes to local scholarship time, we all need a resume. But right now, during college application season, let's focus more on the application, than this document.
Awesome.
Okay. Again, students have changed over the years. With the electronic age and with our ability to text, to FaceTime, to TikTok, to connect to the world, when it comes to college applications, I know you get impatient. We have Amazon delivery within 24 hours to our doorstep. Colleges don't work this way. So if I will anticipate for you, if you apply to a very large school that it has over 50,000 applications a year, like Texas A&M and UT, you will not receive an answer to them. If you apply today with a complete application, I would anticipate you will not get an answer until March. And it's slow. I get that. That's why I need you to slow down as well. There are some schools that the smaller the school, the smaller the application, the group of applicants. Usually they work a little bit faster, but many colleges are very deliberate and slow on this process. Our college reps usually travel around talking to students, promoting their college to students to apply. They spend August all the way to Halloween doing this, and they don't start reading until well into November before they really even start the process of admitting. So we're going to take our time. I used to tell my students, you got to complete by trick or treat. You can't trick or treat until you complete. So Halloween was always the deadline for the majority of schools. We need to make sure everything was done by Halloween. We got time. We got time.
Thank you, Ms. Willard. It's good. Wise words, wise words. Take our time, ensure a quality product, and it's a good representation of ourselves.
Absolutely. That's what we're doing. So now, Ms. Stadick, tell us about how Grand Oaks procedures are going to work this year.
Yeah, so we've got some families that are already eager to learn. They're chomping at the bit. They're doing the research on their own, which is fantastic. I do want to talk a little bit about what it's going to look like in Grand Oaks. First thing I want to talk to you about is Ms. Willard. She talked about meeting college reps, how they're going around and visiting the schools. COVID makes it a little bit more difficult, but I already have some schools on the docket to come visit virtually. So they're going to either send us a pre-recorded video, which I'll share with you, or I'm going to schedule a video conference with them so they can come in and talk to you live, answer all of your questions, and just give you a good sense of the application procedure at their school and what their campus looks like and what student life looks like on their campus and their different departments and the different programs of study that they have to offer and what they're known for and some of their statistics to kind of sell their school to you. And you want to see as many of these as possible. So this is going to be, you can sign up and take a spot in Naviance. So you're going to have a spot where you can go into Naviance and click, I forget what the button is. Do you remember what the button is, Ms. Willard?
Yeah, it's college, under the colleges tab, and it'll have college visits, and you want to sign up.
Yes, so college visits, sign up. They're 100% virtual right now, and I've already got 2, and I haven't scheduled the next couple that just emailed me today, but they're coming, and they're coming fast. So find yourself a spot.
And you know what? Look, this isn't back to checking email daily. You should check college visits daily because, as Ms. Stadick said, just because Texas State, just because University of Houston haven't called yet for the visit, they're coming. Trust me. And I can't tell you how important that connection is to your college rep. The college rep that visits Grand Oaks will probably be involved in the reading process. They may not be the only reader, but they'll definitely be one of the applicant's readers. I have seen magic happen for students when they make that connection with that college rep. They make
personal
that bond.
Connection.
Yeah, that bond, you cannot, that is the best way that you can connect, relate, and really enhances your application.
Right, making an impression on that person, absolutely. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Willard, but every time I add a new one, an email goes out to the Naviance students and it lets them know, hey, this has been added, check it out.
Yep.
So if you don't have your email updated in Naviance, then you're not gonna get that notification.
Right, so yeah, don't ignore it, always check it out.
Yes. All right, so a lot of students have already reached out to us about an official transcript. All of these, like Ms. Willard said, they have to go straight from institution to institution. So you need to go into Naviance and start that application, go to colleges I'm applying to, and then start that procedure. This is a step-by-step process. I'm not going to go over it in detail right now because I'm going to follow up later with an instructional how-to, and you're going to see on the screen where the buttons are and how I'm clicking them, things like that. But press pause on this video right now to kind of walk through step-by-step if you need to. This is all done in Naviance.
And your application should be at the college before the transcript, because they're going to get documents from Danielle Stadick and they're going to say, do we have an application on file for this person? Then we're going to put it in a pile. So in order, again, to do yourself a favor, application, hit send before you start adding supporting documents always.
And another thing that Miss Willard and I did want to talk to you about, because I know a lot of institutions are talking to you about, get your stuff in right now, get your stuff in right now. We want to make sure that we are sending the best product for you. So that 6th semester official transcript should have the updated rank and updated GPA, and we can't get that to you until mid-September. That is campus-wide. So we're going to mass upload all of the updated transcripts officially into Naviance in the middle of September. Now, we can do case by case if you think you're in that 1% that you think is an extenuating circumstance. But really, to be honest with you, we should wait until the mid-September rolls around so we can make sure we are sending the best product for you. All right, the other piece is the letter of recommendation. So there are 2 types of letter of recommendations. If your institution is asking for one, there's a teacher letter of recommendation and there's a counselor letter of recommendation. Both of them have their own form and they're going to be in our Canvas course that goes live here shortly when school starts, okay? So you're going to need to, 1, fill out that student brag sheet. It's already up in Naviance. You can work on it and print it out already and send it with this. But you have to complete this form, and I took a snapshot of it that you'll find in Canvas with a counselor recommendation request form combined with that About Me link, surveys not started, brag sheets. If you haven't done it yet, together, email them to me, and that begins the process for that counselor to give you a letter of recommendation. Now you see it's asking for a lot of information on this form, which is why, going back to what Ms. Willard said, do the applications first. Have your list of colleges you're considering first before you come to this spot. Okay, and also we ask that you give us at least 15 school days to get this done. You want to give them the brag sheet so they know exactly the glorious kinds of things that they want to say about you, and you want to give them the time to be able to give you quality product. So make sure that you do it early as soon as we get that process rolling.
I always like to see students counselor rec letter requests by October 1st. That means they had all of August, all of September to get those pieces done. Then they were ready for the counselor letter. That gave the counselor more than a month to get everything done by Halloween. So I would like to see a big line at my desk by October 1.
Of course, of course. Now, teacher letter recommendation is also through Naviance, and we are in a very precarious situation because this is our first year with seniors. And we have to give the teachers time to get familiar with Naviance. They have not had access to this program before. So we need to give them time to get situated with the new school year. And then I'm going to upload them into Naviance before you can even make the request. And that's okay. Like Ms. Willard said, we're talking about Halloween time. So we want to give them an opportunity to get started. Let the school year iron itself out here at the starting stages. Let me get them familiar with Naviance. Let me train them on Naviance. And then very similarly, you're going to have a button in there that's in the colleges I'm applying to, just like you did for the official transcript request. There'll be a button where you can put teacher recommendation letter request. And that will be coming later when I can make you a tutorial video after we have access to that. Okay, I wanted to let you know it's coming, and that's the procedure for that. You have to still have the brag sheet, you have to fill out this form, and you make that request in Naviance, okay?
When you're talking about teacher recommendation letters, go back to your university list. If the college you're applying to requires a letter of recommendation, it is going to tell you how many. Here's the rule. If you're applying to 5 schools that each need 1 teacher recommendation, you ask 1 teacher, not 5 teachers. And how do you select the correct teacher? I always tell students, don't think about the teacher with a fancy title, the AP teacher, the head coach, maybe a teacher who actually has a doctorate in history or science. My advice has always been the best recommender for you is the person who loves you. And what I mean by that is, who's that teacher that you always wanted to tell your good news? Who's that teacher that would write you a tardy note, even though you probably didn't deserve one? Who's that teacher that would give you lunch money if you were short a quarter? That's what I mean. Think about who you have a personal relationship with. That writer is going to show that enthusiasm about you as a student better than any subject matter, any AP, any doctor, or so-and-so. Think of right now, as you're working your way through your list, who is my writer? And then when we get closer to that time, in September, then you'll be ready to go.
Awesome. So considerations for requesting a letter of recommendation. These are some good nuggets to keep in mind throughout the process. Remember, first things first, step number 1, make sure you submit your application first. Before, once it's open in Naviance to request a letter of recommendation, before doing that, personally approach your teacher to let them know, hey, I'd love if you could please write me a letter of recommendation. I'm going to, and if they say yes, I'm going to go ahead and send that in Naviance. Thank you so much for doing that for me, blah, 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 blah. You're going to need to fill out this form for any teacher. So if you have one favorite, but you can't decide because there's this other person that really knows you really well too, and you like the way that they write and they have this really keen sense of who you are, I want to ask 2 teachers. You need to have this form for each teacher. And then give them, again, same with the counselors, 15 school days minimum. So they have the time to spend marinating on how they can accurately portray how they know you and how fabulous you are. You want them to give you a quality product. So in Naviance, they're going to send this directly through from, institution to institution. They're going to kick it through Naviance. So you're not going to get that document itself. And then when it's done, we'll follow up with your teacher. That's that last bullet, to make sure it's been done, because we get busy and we're human. Make sure you kind of check in with them and say, hey, did you have a chance to do this yet? And they'll be like, oh yeah. Follow up with them and just let them know that you appreciate their time and that they've offered to do this for you. And then when it is done, write them a thank you note, because you're going to have those teachers that are just amazing, and they're going to have 30 letters of recommendation that they need to write, all very individualized, to make sure that they are giving the best glowing recommendation for you. That's a lot of time. So make sure that you show that you appreciate the time that they spent for you.
Great advice, Ms. Stadick.
Thank you. And so in conclusion, I hope this video has been a kind of icebreaker. It's right here. School hasn't even started yet, but I'm just kind of getting the feel that a lot of families are starting to research, which is fantastic. Absolutely. Every school is going to have a little different thing here and there. And it's going to be really important that we research the schools that we're looking at and on that list. We wanted to preemptively put this video out to kind of calm some of that anxiety and let you know that the information is coming and we have time, and give you some insight on this procedure, because we know everyone's chomping at the bit. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is on the screen, dstadick@conroeisd.net. I'm here. We're all in this together. We're going to go through virtually, holding hands, hand by hand, 6 feet distancing, but we are definitely all in this together, and we are excited to go through this process with you as we move forward. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Willard, for joining us today. We really appreciate your professional insight. You've been doing this for so long, and really, really appreciate your advice.
You're welcome, Ms. Stadick, and enjoy the ride, everyone. Your senior year is the year that is memorable, and enjoy it as you go. And I'll be seeing you soon. Go Grizzlies.
Go Grizzlies.